Flash director Andy Muschietti to take on Justice League? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Well, let's take a look. So here we are at Cosmic Book News, and that's the deal, that Andy Muschietti is rumored to be a Justice League director. And I imagine a Justice League film is quite a ways away. I mean, Superman won't happen until summer of 2025, so a Justice League film, maybe 2028, maybe 2030, something along those lines. But anyway, Andy Muschietti is garnered a lot of interest. Of course, he found success in the It films. I saw the first one; it was all right. I just wasn't blown away by it, and I never bothered with the sequel. But he's done The Flash, and according to all the screen tests, and even Tom Cruise has weighed in to say that it's really good, and that's been consistent. And so there you go. So if that's the case, and that's all on Andy, not on Ezra, although, you know, given the right conditions, maybe he pulled off a great performance. But nevertheless, Andy would get the full credit for the success of the film. And so, oh, well, you reward success, so would he get a shot at Justice League? And so the rumor makes sense. That could very well be. Before all of this, with the supposed return of Henry Cavill that only lasted less than a month, the talk was that Andy might be up to direct a Man of Steel 2, and I kind of wish that had happened. Not kind of. I wish that was the deal, but for whatever reason, that wasn't the case. But perhaps he'll do Justice League. But what kind of Justice League would it be? Well, another rumor is Gunn is looking to Darwin Cook's The New Frontier, which was a fascinating story that he did. And for the most part was really good, and it was an interesting transfer from the golden age into the silver age, if you will. And this kind of this idea of the veteran superheroes guiding a younger generation, which Kingdom Come could play a role into that as well. And so is that part of the thinking of what he's doing, which is odd, because if that was the case and your big three of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman being the big mentors of a new generation of superheroes, I would have thought you would need older actors to play those roles, like say, oh, the ones you already had. So Henry Cavill could have been this fatherly figure to a lot of other characters. So it's baffling how this goes. But anyway, the Darwin Cook story, our New Frontier, was really good. I wasn't too crazy about the conscientious objectives because it just didn't work. It didn't make a lot of sense about Hal Jordan, and there was ways to make it work for his how things end for him in the Korean War. Would have been a better way to go, and the cartoon actually does it better. But that was it. The rest of his art's fantastic, and the overall narrative was really cool, and it's a great thing to look to. But I don't think they would be, hey, we're going to set everything, the DCU will be set in the late 50s. No, but it will be the inspiration. It's a better thing for them to look to than what appears to be this ridiculous idea of Superman and the Authority, because the Superman and the Authority comic book miniseries was terrible. It was awful. And the Authority, in my opinion, don't belong in the DC universe. They belong back in Wildstorm as its own separate entity. You can make it part of the multiverse, but that's where the Authority works, to have them. And then the other rumors that they will be the villains that Superman takes on in his first movie. And I was like, geez, already out? He can't even be in his own Superman world and dealing with Superman villains. He's got to take on this other entity that'll get its own film. Not too crazy about that, but this is all speculation and whatnot. Who knows how that turns out? But New Frontier would be a better inspiration than that. But the latter seems more, because there is going to be this, or at least as of now, an authority film set within the DCU. So yeah, there's a lot more about what heard so far about the DCU that I'm not crazy about, and more than what I think sounds good, and it's troubling, especially with referencing Tom King. I just any advice you get from that guy is not gonna pan out well. But anyway, so that appears to be the inspiration for a Justice League film that they want to look to. But a lot of the elements, you would take it out of that time period, wouldn't be there. Would it be addressing our current time period? Coming out of a pandemic and all that sort of thing. I don't know. I rather doubt that they would. But who knows? Maybe. But overall, there's a lot of Mount Everest size hills for James Gunn to climb here. Not all of which is his fault. In fact, most isn't. The DCEU run out was just constantly burdened with foolish decisions, clumsy things, and just throwing stuff up against the wall and hope it would stick. Most of them didn't. And, and that's the situation they're in. Weird, ridiculous scandals like this guy. Stuff like that. But then over at Marvel, you have them, and they apparently have one too. I don't know. But anyway, they've saturated the market and have diluted the superhero genre to the point that superhero fatigue has set in. So what does James think about that, and what's he going to do? Well, over here at the Direct, they read Rolling Stone. I didn't, but they did, and he gave an interview in there, and there's a few choice quotes of him talking on the matter. So he says, I think there is such a thing as superhero fatigue. Yeah, there is. I think it doesn't have anything to do with superheroes. Well, then die. He doesn't really word that well, I wouldn't think, but he does get the idea right on what to do. A genre is a genre is a genre. Now, everyone can point to Westerns. They dominated movies for decades, and then it fizzled out, and other things replaced it. That's true. Even though there's been Westerns since then, they never came back to where they once were. In our current time, superheroes have dominated Hollywood for a variety of reasons that I could go into, but just won't at the moment. But nevertheless, they captured the zeitgeist, as it were. But again, saturation, and then a lot of crappy rinse, lather, repeat jokes and stuff like that Marvel did, and Marvel is chief to blame. The clumsiness of DC is DC's problem in and of itself, but the overall genre is Marvel, because they were the kings of it all, and then they squandered all the goodwill and what they had achieved with lackluster product. And so there's a price to pay for that. And now it's wide open for anything else to come in and fill the void left behind by it. A lot of people were thinking it's going to be the Mario Brothers movie and stuff like that. Could be. But meanwhile, is there hope for DC? Well, if the Superman movie lands and nails it, yeah, there is hope. So, but not if it's heavily influenced by the likes of Tom King. I don't think that'll work. So anyway, he says it has to do with the kind of stories that get to be told, and if you lose your eye on the ball, which is character. And that's exactly right. You can't just paste a bunch of stuff together, fill it full of fluff, and CGI it at the 11th hour and think, yeah, good enough, they'll show up. No, that's not going to work. And you have to be respectful of these stories and the genre you're in, and yeah, keep your eye on the ball and give the depth and credibility to your character, regardless of what it is, whether it's Batman or Superman. So he goes on, hey, we love Superman, we love Batman, we love Iron Man because they're these incredible characters that we have in our hearts. And if it becomes just a bunch of nonsense on screen, it gets really boring. Yeah, that's right. But I get fatigued by most spectacle films. That's right. That's another thing. You got to figure out how to do a superhero movie. And especially with Superman, you would think it would be this giant spectacular. It could be. But if you could do one that isn't and pull that off, that would be a feat unto itself. Because how many more times do you have to see giant skyscrapers collapse? You know? And that's what all these movies have been. So, yeah, that's a big part of the fatigue. So he's probably got like his other statement. I said, well, the superhero fatigue is real, but it doesn't have anything to do with superheroes. Maybe the more accurate thing would be spectacle fatigue. You know, there's just too much of it. So it doesn't have anything to do with whether they're superhero movies or not, right? So if you don't have a story at the base of it, yeah, just watching things bash each other, no matter how clever those bashing moments are, no matter how clever the designs and the VFX are, which hasn't been of late, it just gets fatiguing. And I think that's very, very real. So he's right. So does he have an angle? Does he have a clever plot and whatnot concerning Superman and all that? If it's the Authority, I don't know. But if he does, then yeah, he's on the right track. So the positives are few and far between, in my opinion, for what Gunn has spoke to for his new position here, because the likes of Tom King and stuff being mentioned, that really troubles me a great deal. Of course, I'm bummed by what happened with Henry Cavill and whatnot. Ben Affleck sounding very positive about playing Batman in the Flash movie, at the same time saying he wouldn't have anything to do with James Gunn's DCU. Like, oh, what the hell is that? So I don't know, because there was a lot of aspects about Ben Affleck's Batman approach that I really liked, and that's about as close as you're ever going to get to a comic book Batman brought to life. But there was all kind of problems and flaws, and it just never could seal the deal. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. But if one could take from that and learn from it, I'd be fine with that too, even if it's a new actor doing it. But that apparently will not be the case. So, I don't know. So there's all these troubling things about it. And some of the other things that he looks to as this is inspiration and whatnot. Darwin Cook's a good one. So call the bright spots where they are and hope for the best. But his thinking here is absolutely right if he's true to that spirit, and maybe he can write a Superman script. I wouldn't have thought it, but maybe he can. And if Superman Legacy is a smash hit and a great film, then the doors are wide open for DC to dominate, despite what Marvel has done to the genre. So anyway, yeah, hope for the best, I guess. That's about all you can do.